Good evening. Buenos noches. My name is Kevin Booker Jr., and I will be your moderator for this incredible evening. The title of the panel discussion is Men of Color Do Yoga, and we do yoga. Diversifying the mat. And I want to thank you all for attending this incredible event this evening. The purpose of our time together this evening is to discuss the transformational power of yoga and how we as men of color are breaking down barriers through our practice. Before we begin our discussion this evening, Isaiah will begin the discussion with centering and reading of his poem. Isaiah?
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank you all for joining us and being a part of this discussion. I want to read for you first a poem. I actually wrote this poem and it's titled Land Light. Whether a feather is sent into the air by a soft breeze or a big gust of wind, it will always land light. Close your eyes and take a breath and think of yourself as the feather. Use your breath to encourage your mind to remember to always land light. No matter what thrust you in the air in life, always land light. Use the feather as a reminder to land light on your mat. As your mind, body, and spirit connects, know that you are always the feather and can always land light. Let's take a couple of breaths here. Inhale. Release. Inhale. Release. One more big inhale. Release. And we're going to open up this discussion with the sacred sound of Om. After the next inhale, inhale.
Thank you, Isaiah. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, can you share your name, profession, title, city or town that you live in, your age, and why are you here tonight? I'm going to start off with David.
Hi, my name is David Fuller. I'm from Bloomfield, Connecticut. Why am I here? Because I love yoga and I love inspiring people to do yoga.
That's awesome. Thank you, David. Nate.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nathaniel Black. Nate for short. I'm 28. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut. And I'm here because I love yoga. Any excuse I have to practice or talk about it, my friends can't get me to stop. So might as well attend, right?
That's awesome. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
And Jonelle.
Donnell Payne. I am originally from Washington, D.C. I have been here for a long time. I came up here in 1990 for school, but now I'm 48. I know I don't look it, but let's just go with that. 48. Why am I here? Just like Nate, I just love yoga. I've been practicing for, I don't know, probably 15 years now. And I just love it. It's just I met Kevin a few weeks ago, did an event with him, and I just like what he's doing. So when he asked me to do this, I couldn't wait to participate. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Donnell. And Isaiah.
Good evening, everyone, again. I'm Isaiah Bransford. I am 38 years old. I am originally from Norfolk, Virginia. However, I've been in Connecticut for quite some time. So I was, born in Virginia, but I've been basically raised from teenage years all the way through up to Connecticut. And what brought me to yoga? I was brought to my mat originally by my girlfriend, actually. She opened the door for yoga to me, and it was quite transformative. And so as far as my profession, what I do, I'm a social worker, and I feel like I can help the youth and young adults that I work with through the power of yoga, along with anybody else, really. Yoga is very transformative, and I like to practice that as well as be able to deliver that for people.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Isaiah. So, gentlemen, what does it mean to be a man of color during these tumultuous times, especially in regards to COVID-19, the racial climate, the economic crisis that we are in, and also the political climate in our country as well? And how are you doing right now, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually? I'm going to start off with Donnell.
I'm sure I'm only going to answer about 25% of this question. As far as these times go, it gives me many opportunities to kind of bridge the gap. And most time when you're in a yoga class, being a Black male, I'm the only one in there. So especially with these political times and with the economic shutdown, it's just opportunity for me to show that we can still show up. We can still show up, every day. Again, it's an opportunity for me to just bridge the gap, be that one body in class. Let them see that the other side, we are doing okay, and we can participate.
Thank you, Donnell. And David, how are you feeling right now during these tumultuous times that we are in right now?
Challenged, but not overwhelmed. I think we're in a great time right now, even though all the turmoil is going. I think if you have balance and clarity in this time and you're focused on something, it's a great time to move forward. All the things that we learn in yoga are the things that I'm using outside in life right now, because instead of getting caught up in the chaos and being thrown off by it, I'm trying to stay focused and balanced and working through what I want to accomplish while all this craziness is going on. As much as it is a time of oppression going on with all the craziness, it's also a time of rising up and for more spiritual, like-minded people to come to the surface and start to shine and show people that there's light in the midst of this darkness.
Wow. Thank you, David. And Nate, how are you feeling right now?
Well, I'll be honest, I have my good and bad days. Yoga and meditation really help, I think, keep me balanced for the most part throughout all of this. I can really relate to what Donnell and what David said already. I think this is a really good time to look inward. I'm a pretty introverted person to begin with, but I've absolutely been spending a lot more time alone this year. It's given me a really good chance to be mindful and reflect, and I'm very grateful for that. I am trying to look at this time as an opportunity. And I hope that the people around me will see that they have that option as well. I know there's a lot going on, and it's a hard time for everybody, but there's always that contrast. So wherever there is sorrow, you will see light as well, and I'm trying to find it.
Right. Thank you, Nate. And Isaiah, how are you feeling right now? Especially when in regards to COVID-19, the racial climate, the economic crisis, the political climate within our country. How are you feeling mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually?
Well, first, I want to say I share the sentiments of my fellow panel members. I can definitely agree with many of the points that they already said. But in terms of for me and how I feel as well, there's just so many different layers, right, to what's going on right now in society. When you throw in, the racial climate, you throw in the pandemic, You throw in the current political landscape, right, and how that's all intertwined within the racial climate. So I just want to say I'm thankful for yoga. I really am. And I feel like if I can just get other people to see what yoga can do for them with all those layers, because it can peel back all of those layers. And then you start to take some steps back and you see things really for what they are. You gain a better perspective. And I would feel like right now, like some of my fellow panel members said, this is the perfect time to hit that reset button. You know, things were kind of a little out of whack. And I think that this is kind of forcing people to look inward. It's forcing me to look inward. And I feel like you throw those other things in there, and it's just layer upon layer of you know, stress, busy thoughts, chaotic thoughts. And if you remove yourself from that and you can see it for what it is, again, for me, I'm thankful for yoga, because all of those layers right now are just, they're difficult, but they're manageable.
Right.
Yeah, they're manageable. Yeah.
You know, and I love the fact that you said it, you're thankful for yoga, and it's the perfect time to hit that reset button. So that, you know, what comes to my mind right away is, you know, describe what first motivated you all and what inspired you to get into yoga. You know, like, because, you know, it's something that has been transformational in your life. So, David, like, what, you know, you're the most seasoned one in the group right now. So what inspired you to get into yoga? What first motivated you and inspired you?
Oh man, at 37, my knees were hurting really bad, and I heard yoga relieve the pain. So honestly, that's what took me to the mat. But I will tell you, the moment I picked up the practice I did, I knew I was home. I knew there was a connection between breathing and stretching. I mean, I always did martial arts beforehand, but I
Right.
never really focused on yoga. And actually, I remember as a kid, I wrote up a life plan, and I had yoga when I was going to get to 70. I would do yoga to start settling down. And at 37, yoga came on real strong in my life. But, you know, honestly, it was just a desire to feel better than I was before. You know, in the sports I participated in before, I was very amped up. I was very A personality type. And when I got into yoga, it kind of leveled me out. It still gave me the high of working out, but it didn't give me that amped up feeling. So it really was about restoring and rebalancing my whole body, mind, and spirit in the practice.
Right. And Donnell, what first inspired you and motivated you to get into yoga?
Well, for me, I want to break something down first. Like yoga, there's many different types and forms, and you know, some people don't like everything. But for me, I started off. It was a challenge to do a Bikram class one Saturday morning, and I did it, and like the struggle was real. The struggle was real. In there for 90 minutes, trying to survive in that class, and my personality was just like I tried to conquer it, you know, like I was going to beat this, and so I kept trying to beat it every day for I don't know, for about 10 years, and then that I was going to Bikram for that long, and then I found Live Free, and for anybody on here that doesn't know what Live Free is, you have to experience it once in your life.
Absolutely.
Just go to a class and you'll see that like it's one class will actually change your life. So for me, it's always been the struggle. So Bikram was really hard. Live Free every day is a different class, and it's just, you know, you're really trying to just survive that hour, that 75 minutes, or that 90 minutes.
Wow.
And it just allows you to like really zone out. You could zone out. You will zone out the entire time you're in class. Like no matter what you're going through that day, go to a Live Free class. I guarantee you, 90 minutes later, you're like, I don't know what happened, but I wasn't thinking about that, whatever that is. So for me, that's what it is. It was just kind of overcoming that struggle every day. And I probably practice, I don't know, 5 times a week, but I know for that hour, 75 or 90 minutes, you know, I could just be in some meditative state and not thinking about anything else, just the next posture.
That's right. Awesome. And Isaiah, how has yoga inspired and motivated you?
So again, it's just it touches and hits on so many different points. You know, you got the mind aspect. It transforms your mind. You know, the way you think, the hows and the whys, right? It definitely puts all of that into perspective, and you start to really things start to slow down, right? I'll say the analogy like because I was always into sports. I played sports coming up, and so for yoga, it slows things down. And like how they say, a pro, when a true pro, like when they're at their pinnacle, everything just slows down. Yoga kind of slows things down. So for your mind, you know, it definitely helps me with that because it's just so much chaos now. You know, you know, it's unfortunate that a certain way I view is like we kind of living in a land of burst pipes. So yoga allows everything to slow down within those burst pipes. In terms of the spirit connection, it's very helpful. You know, the how you can explain the hairs on your arms standing up and things like that, you know, that's your spirit talking to you. You know, you start to get into some of these poses, and now that's your body connecting with your mind and your spirit because you're getting in the pose, but it's forcing you to think in a certain way. It's kicking up the emotions, you know. So the second that I actually did that, you know, I always thought yoga, oh, they're just, you know, they're stretching lightly and, you know, all of this. And then I went to my first class and it was a hot power vinyasa class, very first class. And I got my introduction. You know, it basically let me know, wow, this is not just, you know, some light stretching. There's all different forms of yoga that does exist within yoga. But when I got to that, I said, man, this is something. And this hits on everything, you know, and I think any athlete, they can kind of connect with their mind, body, and spirit. They kind of know when you're out there doing certain things, you can't say it's nothing but that, your mind, body, and spirit. Right. So, you know, yoga, it just allows all of those things to connect and show. And I was drawn to it the second I went to that hot power vinyasa class. I said, man, this I sweat buckets, and my mind felt great. I was smiling internally, you know, externally, I was just all of my vibration. It was just vibrating out. So I want to continue that. Positive vibration is probably one of the most powerful things that we have between all of us humans to bounce between each other. So that's what yoga does for me.
Thank you, Isaiah.
Yep.
And Nate, describe what first motivated you and inspired you to get into yoga.
I found yoga and fell in love with yoga through a program called Love Your Brain. So everyone's been talking about really fast, sort of high energy yoga. I absolutely started with something much gentler. Love Your Brain is a yoga program that was specifically designed for people with brain injuries. I am one person with a brain injury, so it's I think I've always really struggled, particularly because of the brain injury, with being in touch with my body. I was so unaware. So coming onto the mat, it really helped with physical pain. I was in so much physical pain before I started to do yoga. But it really just brought me back to my body. And I fell in love with it from there. I started at my home studio, and I think after my Love Your Brain program, I immediately bought a membership, and I was there almost every day.
That's awesome. That is awesome, Nate. So what I'm hearing from all of you right now is that yoga brings you back to your body, right? Those positive vibrations that we get. As Donnell said, the struggle was real.
Yeah.
The smiling internally, it transforms your mind, and it allows everything to just slow down because you get in touch with your mind, your body, and your spirit. So what comes to my mind right now is what type of impact has your practice had on you and your relationships? Donnell.
Well, it's definitely taught me some level of patience, right? Because you could walk into a class, and I've been practicing for 15 years. I'm 48 now, and you go into a class, you see someone in there like in this posture, you're an athlete, you're like, I could do that. Like if they could do a handstand, I could do that, right? I've been working out for a while, and you try, like, it's just not going to happen. Right? It's just not going to happen. So again, it taught you to have some type of relationship with kind of where you are within your own body, right? Because everyone in there is doing something slightly different, right? And you could try to look over at someone else like, I could do that tree like that. Then you put your hands in the air, you find out, you done took 2 steps backwards because you really can't do that yet, right? You just can't do that yet. So it teaches you some humility, some patience, and just to, have your own class. I think when you first go, you're looking around and you're trying to figure out like where you are in the room. But after a while, you actually zone all that out, and you're just having, your own class. So how that reflects on relationships, just, don't worry about anyone else. If you could treat your relationships, just like you do your own yoga practice, you realize that, all those social media posts of someone having a great time in their lives, and and you try to do that too because you feel like you should be there. Like, don't worry about that. Have your own class, have your own relationship, and eventually, like, you'll get there. Like, no matter where there is, like, you'll get to that posture. It might take you 6 months, might take you 6 years. I've been trying to do things today that I tried when I first walked into the room, 10 years ago. But that's the motivation. If you treat your relationships just like that, just kind of keep working at them, like being positive and working at them, they'll eventually work out.
Wow, that's positive. Thank you so much, Donnell, for that insight. And Isaiah, what type of impact has your practice had on you and your relationships?
A lot of what Donnell has had to say, like, I just say check mark to all of that, because it definitely, a lot of that resonates within me. As far as like the patience, you just, as those things slow down, right, within your life and within your reality, you don't look at things as critical as you may used to look at them, And if you talk about relationships, right, with other people, we don't recognize sometimes how critical we are, not only of ourselves, but of other people, right? So if we could slow things down and just be more patient with our relationships, how we interact, to not be as critical of people as we maybe used to be. Yoga, for me, it just kind of slowed all of that down, kind of, again, going back to that, like the how and the why and the where are we going, where you're going is wherever you want to go, and you're an individual within the group, right? And we always say in yoga, right, just worry about you on your mat, because somebody might be over there, they might be doing something, and you might say, oh, I aspire to do that, but also too, stay on your mat. What feels good for your body? What feels good for you? Maybe child's pose might feel great for you. The teacher might be calling things out. Your body might be calling for that pose, So yoga for me just allows everything to be more patient, and with relationships, just not being as critical of really anything, people, everything around me and within my reality. It's really just shaped my mind to think better, and to patiently think better. Yeah.
To patiently think better.
Yeah.
Wow. So Nate, how has it impacted you and your relationships?
This question, I immediately think the biggest impact yoga has had is on my relationship with my body. Before I started to practice, my body and I were constantly at odds. I was never satisfied with the way it felt, with the way it looked, performed, and I started to practice, and that really started to change. I started to have compassion for myself. Wherever I was at that day, my practice never looks the same when I come back onto my mat. And then from a compassionate place, I learned how to challenge myself there and grow from a much more loving place as opposed to just trying to bully my body into doing something. So that was the biggest shift. And I think just having learning that sort of compassion for oneself just allows me to be more compassionate with the people around me, or the animals, like my cat but much more compassion. When I have it for myself, it's a lot easier to give.
Oh, so much easier to give. Thank you, Nate, for sharing that insight with us. And David, what type of impact has your practice had on you and your relationships?
It screwed up all my relationships.
Oh, God.
But I mean that in a good way. No, on a serious level, yoga for me has turned my life upside down, and it's been a good upside down from the sense of, first, it was the relationship I had with myself. I got one-on-one with myself every time I stepped on the mat, and you start seeing where you're critical of yourself. You start seeing where you love yourself. You start seeing where you challenge yourself. And when you step on that mat every day, or how much you step on it, you start one-on-one with yourself. And then to get one-on-one with yourself and then turn that volume down and come in contact with your breath and your spirit, and then start to see that rise up, and all these layers that we think who we are go away. And you get to that place, then when you start to look out and see the rest of the world changes. You see people differently. Yeah, people are going to be next to you on the mat and they're going to inspire you or deter you, but that's just a challenge for me. That's just like, yeah, I'll get there someday. But as far as my relationships, it's just allowed me to be more calm. And when I see things, I can see something happening from me and not be reactive to it, because I spent the time on the mat to say, just watch this and see where it goes, So it's really given me that center place. And I know when my world's upside down, because I'm not on the mat. But once I get on that mat, nothing tends to rock me as much. I can have highs and lows, but stay in the middle, So really, my relationships have improved by my practice, because when I practice, I'm in a better space.
You said when you practice, you're in a better space, right? And it was interesting, David, you just said, I know when my world is upside down, because that's when I'm not on my mat. So that leads me to my next question for many of you right now is, what area do you hope you will grow over in the next year? When you being on your mat, and you think about your life, and because you're pouring into that mat every once, twice a week, 5 times a week, and you're really getting in tune with yourself. So it's helping you develop into a better human being. So what area do you hope you will grow in the next year? Isaiah.
Well, I would say I try not to look at it as like a year perspective, right? Because like as yogis, right, and as teachers, we're always on our journey. So I don't want to limit it to, just 1 year. I just want to continue to grow within my practice, continue to bring the things in the world that, you have to deal with them. You have to be able to let that wave come in, right? It might crash sometimes. It might be a little tiny puddle of a wave, right? But no matter what it is, it's going to wash back out.
Right.
So whenever those waves are coming in life, the mat is there. So just within the next, whatever step I take within yoga, I just want to continue to grow in my practice, continue to have a greater range of motion, continue to have greater flexibility, continue to bring any problem within my headspace that I need to deal with, bring it to that mat and continue to process it, and know that yoga is the vehicle that allows you to process some of those things that maybe before you didn't understand how to process it. So I just want to continue to grow and be able to do that. And then you throw in the physical challenges that I'm going to continue to put on myself. That just goes hand in hand, right? That the physical challenges and the mental challenges. So I just want to continue to challenge myself to be on my journey, continue to walk forward. And there's no limit, there's no cap to that. And just being on the mat allows you to do that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Isaiah.
Yeah.
So, Donnell, you know, what area do you hope you will grow over in your journey as well? You've been doing this for now the past 10 years.
Yes, 15.
Yeah.
Right.
15 years, yeah.
15. And honestly, I'm still failing. Like I can be great one day and literally on top of the world the next day or next class, next moment, like I'm not. Like I hope, and I'm still trying, that I could just be like a better yogi and a better person. Right. So again, the struggle I mentioned before, like the struggle, like it's real every day. So you'd think that I've been doing it for 15 years, that like I've somehow mastered something, but believe me, I haven't. Like I might be like a little better at things, but every day is a struggle. And that translates over to personal relationships as well.
That's right.
You know, like one day you feel like everything's going great, the next day, like it doesn't. So I hope like in my personal relationship and yoga, like I could just continue to be like better than I was yesterday. Like no matter how good or how bad yesterday was, like the next day, next class, I could just do better than I did yesterday. And and hopefully that that continues to propel me forward in life.
Wow. Jeez, thank you so much, Donnell, for that insight. And Nate, so what area do you hope you will grow in your journey while you're on your mat? For 2, 5 years, like how do you want to continue working on yourself?
This question I find difficult to answer only because in the amount of time I've been practicing yoga, which has only been a few years, my body has proven to me that it can do significantly more than I ever thought it could.
Wow.
So, I just can't even imagine. I don't want to put any limits to it. I hope I continue to come to my mat. I hope it continues to be a place of comfort and of spiritual development for me. And I'm open to any surprises, any miracles that want to come up as a result of it. It's brought so much to my life, and so I feel like as long as I do continue to come back to my mat, it's going to continue to bring me new things.
That's right. It's going to continue to bring new things to you. Thank you. And David, in your 20 plus years being on that mat, not quitting, going to California, working with different yogis and just pushing yourself, what area do you see yourself growing in your journey? Where would you like to go in your journey?
Oh, wow. Where would I like to go? I struggle, but from not, wow, what's the best way to put this? I struggle with this question because I haven't accomplished what I originally set out to do in my practice. So when you say, where do I want to go to grow? I'm still growing.
That's right.
It's about just going deeper in what I know works. I know my meditations work. I know that getting on my mat work. I know that getting out and sharing in community works. If there was one aspect I'm probably going to work on more as community at this point, because I've lived so much of a monk lifestyle that I don't have that community around me. And sometimes it's difficult when I get in community. But now the goal is not just to get in community, to be in community, but to be in community and to inspire. I love turning people onto yoga. So if I can do that by being more in the community or even improving my practice more than it is, because there's so much room for my practice to improve. Being that I have been here so long, there's things I used to could do that I can't do anymore. And so
Right.
now the mindset is, okay, how do you reprogram the brain to do it at this age? And I know that it's possible, but now I've got to double my efforts because it's twice as hard now to do it. So for me, it's really about getting back and practice even harder, you know, getting back to the very rigid practices of getting up early, getting the practice in first and treating myself and then taking on my day. But all of that is still on the plate for me because I still have so much more I want to accomplish with this practice.
Mm. So like you just said, David, you know, getting back to practicing harder, like every day. And one of the reasons why we all came together as men of color in this call is to promote this practice. Because, you know, there's always those ideas, those stereotypes that, you know, men of color maybe do not practice yoga. And as Donnell said earlier, you know, sometimes he's the only man of color in the class. And many of us have experienced that in yoga. So, you know, the question that comes to my mind is, why should more people practice yoga, especially from historically disenfranchised groups? You know, why should we get more involved with the practice of yoga? It's when you think about our communities and, you know, just the historical legacy of our communities, you know, why should we get more involved in this practice? And I see Isaiah shaking his head right now. He's like, oh yeah, Booker, we need to get involved. So Isaiah, why?
Uh, I mean, this one we probably can go all night on this. But I guess the short of it is healing.
Mm,
You know, it's healing. It's a time for healing.
right.
You know, there's been enough trauma. You know, to the generational trauma, to live in trauma. Somehow we gotta figure out the way to be able to get in front of that. You know, and I see yoga as one of the ways to really get in front of that. Now, when you talk about disenfranchised communities, right? That the default is always our community. The
That's right.
default for a disenfranchised community in the United States of America has always been the Black community. And that's not to exclude anyone else that has plight and goes through things, but that's just to say that we've always been the default. And so with that, with the disenfranchisement comes, you know, lack of money, right? This is America, capitalistic society. Unfortunately, we need money to be able to do things. If that money is not there, things like education, healthcare, right? Those things tend to falter. So how can we, knowing that those things exist within the system, what can we do, right? Well, yoga is one of those things that we can do, because with all of that trauma within that disenfranchised system or disenfranchised place that we've been placed in by the system,
Right.
we can use yoga. Use it to, one, connect with your mind, body, and spirit. There's a way to deal with all of the trauma to say, you know what? I know about the trauma. I see it right here. I'm going to take all of the trauma. I'm going to put it in this filing cabinet, right? That filing cabinet door might pop open. One of those files might pop up, but you know what? My mat allows me to take that folder, place it easily back into the filing cabinet, and close it.
Right.
Well, that right there is one of the ways. And then you talk about just your health, overall health. You know, lack of money and resources sometimes mean improper nutrition, right? Which leads to all types of health issues. So one thing that it can do is it can get in front of those health issues, right? It's going to improve your blood pressure, you know, move your body. A body in motion, all human bodies are meant to be in motion. And when they're in motion, they do amazing things for themselves. And that motion of yoga, when you do that, you're going to notice all of your health benefits improve. So, I mean, there's just so much that I can continue to talk about. And I don't want to take my other panel members' time, but just speaking from the standpoint of, you know, what can yoga do? Yoga can do so much because it can really deal with that trauma. the current trauma, the generational trauma. And within that, it can start to wipe away some of the other ripple effects that is affected by that trauma, right? The family unit, all of that stuff, you know? And imagine if families now are coming together, doing yoga together. They're talking about their feelings. You know, they're talking about the way it made them feel. They're starting to recognize the health benefits. You know, they're recognizing all of the positives. Oh, wow, our household, you know, it's such a harmonious place. And, you know, without going on and on and on, yoga it can do that. And it can do that for a singular person. And it can definitely do that for a family unit. And it can most certainly do that for a community. And I feel like it can help our community. And it's needed.
Thank you, Isaiah, for your a very passionate statement there. Thank you for your passionate remarks.
Yep.
Donnell, 15 years. 15 years. And, you know, like Isaiah said, you know, trauma, current trauma, generational trauma, building up the family unit. Why do you think more people who have been historically disenfranchised should get into yoga, the practice of yoga?
Well, like just doing something different. Like I remember getting off work, you know, heading straight to the basketball court, you know, like doing the same things every day. But if you can just, you know, just make yourself do something different, you'll find out there's really different things out there. And with it, I think how I can like give back to my community is just like this principle of like each one teach one. So like if I could just bring one person along with me, just one person along, you know, like some young guy, you know, in another 5 years he is doing yoga because he saw me do it. I mean, that's how you get out of the rut. Like if we all could just grab back and just reach back for one person to bring along with you. Like yoga is such a vital part of my life. Like I don't think I have, like every day I have a conversation about yoga because everyone knows I do it. And when I go home to DC, like I invite my friends, my cousins, my family. Everybody knows, like when Donnell comes to town, he's gonna try to get all of us to go to a yoga class, right? And no one likes it, by the way. No one likes it, but I still try to drag them along with me because I go, you know, every day. So if I could just like get one person to go, and then they get another person to go, and then, you know, like everything else, like we won't continue to be that disenfranchised group. Like show them it's something different out there.
Right.
And we all, like, no matter what your income level is, like we all have disposable income. Like we all have, like, no matter what, we all choose to spend our money a certain way. So yoga does, you know, it does cost something to go every month, but we all choose to spend our money a certain way. So we can just show someone else that, you know, you could choose to spend that $100 this month on, you know, unlimited yoga classes. Just think about that. You can go out one night and spend $100 or have unlimited yoga classes for a month. I keep choosing to take the unlimited yoga classes and go spend that $100 somewhere else. So I just try to show them there's something different out there. And this could be your thing too.
Oh, thank you, Donnell.
Yeah.
Because you said, as Donnell said, each one teach one. You know, each one teach one. David, 20 plus years, man. You know, just thinking about being on that mat, and I know you've seen a lot from California, from the West Coast to the East Coast. How can we, you know, why should people who have people of color be more involved in yoga? How does it help?
One, I think it's the right time right now. I think everybody is tired of being in the struggle. We find different methods and things to cope. Yoga is my greatest way to cope with life. And it's my greatest way of getting high. When I do yoga, I get high, but it's a natural high. Right. And that's something that allows you to see yourself and see the world in a different perspective. So when we look at our people or people that disenfranchised, that are always in the struggle, always in the hustle, having a sacred space or a space they can step out of the world and just practice and let whatever comes up for them come up and then let it go. and then put back on whatever costume they have to go into the world, that's the greatest asset, because now they have something that they can tangibly use to cope with their stuff and then get back out in the world and fight. So for me, it's about it's a healing. As Isaiah said, it's really about healing. We've built all this stuff up, or all the things that are coming up right now are impacting us in our own ways. And from a yoga perspective, our bodies represents our experience. So when you step on a yoga mat, you start stripping away your experience on the yoga mat, your body changes, your mind changes, your spirit comes more alive. And those are the things that we need right now in the midst of all the chaos that's going on. So for me, it's all about, it's a perfect time because of all the craziness that's happening in the world. And it's an easy and accessible system to get to. A lot of people will talk about yoga's very expensive to do, but I go back to how I started. I bought a book. I got up every morning and practiced at 4 o'clock in the morning. I taught myself to practice. Today, you don't have to do that. You've got YouTubes, you got classes, you got free classes at a lot of studios. So a lot of times you can go in and just start a class just to get experience of it until you find a place that feels like home. And then you get in there and you do it. But like Donnell said, it's the best money you've ever got to spend, because now you're medicating yourself with something that's allowing you to live and to breathe.
You're medicating yourself with something that is allowing you to breathe.
Yeah.
That is deep.
Yeah.
You're medicating yourself with something that is allowing you to breathe. Nate, why should we continue to promote this practice that changed our lives? People who we love, people in our families, people in our communities.
So, this video is currently streaming live on Facebook. I don't think many people of color could even look through their Facebook feeds right now without experiencing, if not overt trauma, then some serious distress, right? Anytime the news comes on, I can feel it. And I think that's exactly it. I kind of want to emphasize exactly what Isaiah was talking about. Trauma is held in the body. And yoga is a way that I've found to release it. I once had someone explain meditation to me as just giving yourself some time to get all the thoughts out. And yoga, I find, is a really good way of just giving myself the time to get any of the stuff my body is storing out. I go through a lot of emotions in an hour yoga class. It's all releasing. And if you don't give yourself that time to let it out, it follows you for the rest of the day. And it could lead to, I mean, for me, it led to a lot of physical pain. I came into yoga with an awful shoulder injury. And it was just tension. It was because my shoulders were all the way up here all day long. So it's that healing energy. I can't say enough about it.
And I love what you just said, Nate, that healing energy. And all of you are talking about how it just helps out with just making us better human beings by being on that mat, by pushing ourselves to the next level. So, how do we promote this practice within our communities and encourage other men of color and women, right, to begin doing yoga? And especially when you think about even like the stereotypes within our own community, like, you practice yoga? Like all these stereotypes of, even as a man, right? So how do we encourage and begin to encourage others to practice yoga? And even maybe as they continue on with their practice, even maybe become instructors one day, right? So I'm going to go directly to David on this one, because I know we were having that conversation before, about encouraging and like the practice that you have encountered in your life and how it has taken time. But what do you think, David? How can we encourage?
You've got a couple things going on. As you said, all the stereotypes that are there and all the restrictions or things
Yeah.
that make up for excuses. It's the same with everybody. For me, it's just encouraging people to step on the mat. I do as much as I can when I'm on my mat to highlight something that may inspire somebody to want to try it. But
Right.
really, it's about just step on the mat. I mean, I am like a used car salesman on crack when it comes to selling yoga. Oh yeah, you got to do yoga. The lights out, do yoga. It'll help you better. But it really is about, that's my enthusiasm for what I found on the mat. And many things will bring people to the mat, but whatever brings them to it will keep them there, and they'll discover more. So honestly, I think it's just sharing your light in the world for what you love. I love yoga. I share that light, and hopefully people will follow. Sometimes it takes them a couple of years before they get there, but just keep turning it on. Now, yeah, the more we see it in our communities and the more it becomes a common word in our communities, like I was thinking about this other day, yoga has to become like basketball has been in the communities. And when it gets to that level, then more people will be practicing yoga. But it's not there yet. It's still a thing of, oh, wow, I saw that passing through. What does that mean? But I think, our young generations is definitely taking on it. The kids are getting in it. It's in the school system for the kids. Where we really want to try to make some entrenchment is in the middle age and the older folks that have been traditionally stayed away from it because of all the myths around it. And then how do we get them encouraged, and how do we get them up and moving to address these physical ailments that we all have? We know that traditionally follow, men of disenfranchised, curing blood pressure. If you can do yoga and cure blood pressure, not have to take blood pressure meds, wouldn't that be wonderful? Again, but it's about introducing the healing aspects of it to the community.
That's right. Thank you, David. Thank you so much, David. Donnell, what do you think? How can we promote this practice within our communities to encourage other men, right? With all these stigmas and these stereotypes that we hear all the time, David just elaborated on, just changing the narrative, right?
Yeah.
Because basketball's cool, and making yoga cool. So,
Right.
And even become, so what can we do to what do you think?
I think just don't be afraid to share. I think everyone I've ever known, know I do yoga, because I talk about it, religiously. Even at work, go to work, at the end of the day, I'm going to yoga. I got my bag right here. Everyone knows. So if you just don't be afraid to share and just lead by example. I had this thing where I say just be the light, let everyone else be the moth around you.
Wow.
If you shine your light towards yoga, they'll eventually come. And that's what tends to happen to me. I just keep telling people every day. They ask me kind of what I do to work out. And I just do this live free yoga every day. First class is free. You come on down. And I know I say yoga, you think that, it's easy, but just come down and let me and the teacher show you just how difficult this thing can be. So you just be the light in your community. And eventually, hopefully, they'll follow you.
Thank you, Donnell. I like that. Be the light in your community. So Isaiah, I see your head nodding right now. When he talks about being that light in your community, how do you think we can promote it as well?
Again, I'm gonna check mark next to both of those statements earlier that they both said, because you just gotta to be the light. I think the thing about humans, right, and especially with our community, the ability to relate, right, is really important. So if you build that bridge to get somebody to relate, they're going to be more, kind of open to wanting to do it. So that might be through many different avenues, right? We might have to sell it on how cool it is, right? We might have to build a bridge on the history of it, right? Because if you go way back, there was Kemetic yoga, right, in ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
So you can start to give people some of the history of it, the hieroglyphs and the ways they were on the side of the pyramids within the hieroglyphs, that some of those were yoga poses.
That's true.
They weren't just in wacky different motions. No, those were yoga poses. So if you can get people to relate, maybe it might be cool because it's cool. Guess what? Most pro sports teams, they have yoga. Any of these NBA teams, they probably got a yoga instructor. Most NFL teams, they probably got a yoga instructor. You know, you get people to relate and get them to see, you know, this can help you too, you know, and you don't have to have $1 million for it to help you. Like David said, you can buy a book. And now there's just so many different avenues for content. You know, technology has made content so accessible, and it's free content, right? So you can get it for free. You can pay. You know, you can find your community and go pay. You can just do so much, but it's about the exposure, being the light, building bridges, getting people to relate and have those commonalities. And know, look, if we all do this, look at what we can be. Look at where we can go. Look at how we can feel. You know, you start to get excited, and that vibration that I talked about, right? Let's make this vibration be positive, because positive vibration leads to positive things, right? Negative vibration is going to lead to destruction and negative things. So let's make it be positive. You know, you get people to see that and kind of really take a couple steps back. And I think it's important that we get people to be excited about this, you know, and that's what I feel like I'm going to do and what I want to do. And I know we all got, you know, similar sentiments, and we're all going for this thing and get people excited, you know, be that light.
And just, you know, just reiterating what Isaiah just said, you know, being that light, that positive vibration, making sure it continues to stay positive, the ability to relate, just, you know, sell how cool it is, as David was saying, you know, being that salesman, that used car salesman. And when I think about all these different elements to this, Nate, what comes to your mind right now on how we can continue to promote and encourage yoga within our community?
Something that keeps coming back to my mind as I'm listening to you all speak is just those of us who do practice continuing to show up. Anytime any of us are in a class, then another person of color or man of color that might be coming to try out a class that day for the first time doesn't have to be the only person there. I've absolutely, and I'm sure all of you can agree, have been sometimes the only person of color, sometimes the only guy in a class. And I'm very grateful for everyone who decides to stay and give it a shot, but it certainly doesn't have to be that way. And the more we're all present and taking up space within the yogic community, and speaking up and sharing how much we enjoy this practice, the more it will spread. And also, I think just reminding people, because there are so many different kinds of yoga, reminding people that there's probably a practice out there for you. If you like something more high paced, more that feels more like a workout, try a vinyasa class. If you want something a little slower, there's gentle yoga. If you like meditation and chanting, maybe trying a kundalini yoga class. There's so much. There's something for everyone. You just gotta figure out what it is.
I love the fact that you said, you know, you just have to find out what it is, and there's so many different types of yoga, you know, and sometimes, you know, we're unaware of that because of lack of exposure.
Yes, so many different types and so many different studios. Every studio has its own energy.
That's correct.
People you resonate with and build a community.
And thank you, Nate, for addressing that. So one of the questions that came to my mind right away was, can you share a time when you maybe experienced like a barrier, right? You had that barrier in your life where you were just like, wow, this is challenging for me. You know, maybe you were the only person of color in that yoga studio, right? But it was something that helped you to continue pushing forward. And for some of the people who are listening right now, who may say to themselves, you know, wow, you know, maybe I've never been in a yoga studio, or maybe I want to take that step on that mat. Can you share a time or experience where you had maybe that doubt in your own mind, but you overcame that doubt to push forward? And what words of encouragement would you give that person, you know, who say, well, that's something that I see that white people do. I don't know if I can do it. That barrier that sometimes we put in our own minds, or that those barriers that we have within ourselves based off our own experiences. Maybe it's education, some of the things that we've been through. We all have all those things that are called that backpack that we carry, right? And it just keeps loading, it keeps getting heavier and heavier. Can you share a moment or a time when you had that barrier in your own head, right? Or maybe you didn't have that type of support around you, but how did you overcome it? How did you continue pushing forward to not allow that boulder to hinder you from moving forward so you can continue on with your practice and your journey? Donnell.
All right, so I can tell you this is much easier said than done.
Yeah.
Because we all have different situations in our lives, and we want to push through it. As much as I want to say, just go get on your mat and you'll be okay. Like, I'm finding out that it's not always quite that easy.
Right.
It's just not that easy. But if you can push through whatever you're going through, whatever barrier that's currently in your way, like, I think eventually, and this is me living my life every day right now. Mm-hmm. So, like, eventually, like, get back on the mat. Just like let the class take you away. Don't try not to focus on any of your surroundings, and just let that class, let that teacher, for me it's the music in class, let it all just take you away just for a little while. Like just for a little while. And again, this is much easier said than done for me, because
wow.
Like, I need to get back on my mat as well. I haven't been, and for me, a long time is 7 days to not practice. So if you can just get back on your mat and let that 60, 75, 90 minutes kind of take you away and ground you again.
That's right. David, what's coming to your mind right now?
Well, I have to go back and way in the recesses when I had obstacles. But no, I laughed because I remember when I first started and I was excited about yoga, but I went to a class and they started the class out, they ohm and they started chanting. I'm like, whoa. I'm not doing this chanting stuff. And I sat there and I did the Lord's Prayer. It's like, hey, this is what I can relate to. But it was a great lesson, because you have to remember, yoga is not a destination, it's a journey. And there's things that you can swallow and get used to while you're doing it. And then there's things that you can't handle in the beginning or whenever. Some of those things you put on the side and say, okay, later on, if I'm ready for that, I'll pick it up. But you do find what you enjoy about the practice and focus on that and allow that to keep bringing you to the mat. Because I say all the time, whatever brings you to the mat gets you there for a purpose. If you stay on that mat, you'll discover what your purpose is. That's right. So for me, it's just whenever I hit an obstacle, I'll make a note of it, but focus on what I love at the moment of what I'm doing. And then when I'm ready to deal with that thing that's so big or that bothered me, then I address it, And then one more instance, I had a time like that where I had to start owning my own practice. I was going to a class all the time, and this was a place where the instructor kind of gave you new postures, and I was going backwards instead of going forwards. And I had to get inside my own head and get to a place of saying, okay, wait a minute, whose practice is this? And I had to understand it was my practice on the mat, and I needed an instructor there to guide me. But it was a struggle for me, because now it felt like I was being stopped from moving forward. So your stuff is going to come up for you on the mat. And that's the cool part. It comes up for you while you're on the mat, leave it on the mat, and keep moving forward.
Wow. Thank you, David. Like you just said, sometimes that stuff comes up on that mat, right?
Yeah, it comes up. I call it my therapy. I mean, yoga is my therapy. And, in some traditions, they do call it yoga chitta, yoga therapy. It is therapy. When you get on that mat and you start working inside of yourself, your stuff comes up. And the key is to be able to look at it, see it, let it go, or put it away until you're ready to do it, as Isaiah said earlier. So that's how I've dealt with it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And Nate.
My brain just keeps going. Keep breathing.
Keep breathing.
Keep breathing. If yoga has taught me nothing else, it's that if I come back to my breath, things get a lot easier. I surprise my body surprises me all the time with what it can do if I remember to breathe through my practice. And I take that out. I take that out into the world. Anything that feels unmanageable feels at least a little bit more manageable if I stop and take a few deep breaths.
Right.
Come back to your breath, and those difficult things aren't so hard.
Right. Thank you, Nate. Keep breathing.
Keep breathing.
No, that's right. And Isaiah.
So I feel like how you talked about that backpack earlier, right?
Yeah.
Like we all have this backpack. It doesn't matter whether our backpack it has, you know, a quarter of a pound in there or is, you know, weighed down by, you know, 100 pounds, right? We all have a backpack. And no matter what those barriers are, right? Your mat allows you to take that backpack off.
That's right.
And really, you know, unpack it, you know, take it all, look at the things, you know, see what's in there, and think critically about them and be able to deal with them, you know. You don't know how strong you are until you need to be strong, right? So when you're unpacking those things, that mat allows you to really connect and know, you know what, it's okay. Because there's a room full of people with backpacks. It doesn't matter what they're unpacking. That's besides the point. You have the space to do it. The energy is bouncing between everybody. And again, it's just quite transformative to be able to take care of those barriers, that boulder, you know, and have it be on your mat and be able to see other people do that, right? Because it sparks you to want to then bring other people to do that, you know, to show them, you know, again, commonality, right?
That's right.
You can have this feeling too. We can all have this feeling, you know, it's okay. You can have a backpack. Guess what? I have a backpack too. We all have a backpack. It's all right. Come on to your mat and let's deal with this backpack because we can all do it.
Now,
Yoga allows us.
I love the way you said that. Just come on to your mat, right?
Yeah.
And just you could take that backpack off. For some people who are listening right now, who may be unfamiliar with the yoga community, and maybe this is like a new world for them. What does that mat mean to you all? Like, what does that mean? You know, like when you think about that mat, because they're listening right now, they're like, okay, the mat. You know, what does it mean to be able to be on that mat? As Donnell said earlier, he said, I haven't been on my mat in 7 days. I got to get on my mat, right? And then just thinking about it, what does that mean to you? Like when you think about being on your mat in the morning, I got to get on my mat today. You know, I'm missing that time on my mat. What does that mean as a man? Like just even, let's say, even when you focus on just gender for that component as well, what does that mean? Like, why do you feel like you need to be on that mat? You need that time on that mat. For those listeners who are listening, as far as what exactly does that mean to you? Donnell.
It's just, you know, showing up. Like everyone shows up, especially to like a hot vinyasa class.
Yeah.
Like you kind of show up like you preparing for battle. Like everybody comes in and they roll out their mat and put their water bottles down, and everybody, you know, kind of gets ready for this, you know, for this 60-minute war you about to take. And it's like you all going in it together, and your only, like, your weapon is just that mat. You don't have anything else. So we all come in without armor, which is the mat, and we all just get ready to kind of, you know, endure this together, and, you know, and go through that struggle together. But also, like you mentioned, community, and I can tell you, like, if you get that yoga community, don't ever take it for granted.
That's right.
Like, don't, because it can easily happen, like in more ways than one. So like when you get it and that community grabs you, like don't, like, do everything to hold on to that, and you could do that just by being like the best person you could be, like, every single day. So like it's hard to find, but you don't just walk to the studio and find a community. And it takes a while to build, but it's, you can easily destroy it as well. So when you find it, like, take care of it like you would any other relationship you'll have.
Wow, that's well said. Yeah. Isaiah, what does it mean to you? For the people who are unfamiliar, with that yoga community.
I mean, it's that mat that we all talk about. I think, we say it because obviously we're in the community. I'm glad we're able to deliver the message of how powerful it is, how transformative it can be. And you roll that out and you're just ready. When you haven't been on it, there's just a certain mental feeling that you have, and it's like, I got to get back on there, because I feel a mental fog, or just things aren't quite right, or man, I got this little ache in my back, and I know if I'm on my mat, I'm not going to have that ache, or this little pain is not going to be there. So, speaking about just the mat like that, it just represents all of those things, the good that can come from yoga, the positive that can come from yoga, and what it can do for you. Because once you start doing it, your mind and your body knows, and certainly your spirit too. It definitely knows. It's like, hey, you get back on your mat. The same way, maybe in religion, how you're drawn to church or wherever you worship, right? You're drawn there, and if you haven't went for a certain period of time, your inner self is telling you, you know what, I need to go back, because it's good for you. And that's what the mat means. We know it's good for us, so you always want to return to it. You always want to go back.
And David, what does that mean to you, being on your mat and the yoga community as well?
Yeah, being on my mat is my sacred space. And what I mean by that, when I get on that mat, I'm getting on that mat to connect with my spirit. I'm getting on that mat to lay down all the labels that I wear in the world of who I am and who I think I am. Just get one-on-one and say, okay, what have I got going on today? Let me let go of some stuff. Let me pick up some stuff. Let me challenge myself. But I also call it my playtime. I get on that mat and I play. I act silly. Sometimes I fall down, but that's the joy of it. The harder you try, you fall over, and it's like, okay, that was stupid, but that was fun. Let's do that again. And for me, sometimes the world looks a lot better when I'm upside down. So I look forward to going upside down on the mat. It's like, okay, things are not that bad after all, But I love to play on the mat. I love the community. As I said, I've spent most of my life as a monk in various aspects of study, spiritual studies. So now having a community is something new for me. I need the community, and I'm trying to get more engaged in the community, embrace more of that. After a while, it gets lonely and tired walking alone. So having a community or finding a place you can call home, and that's really the key, a place where you can go and practice and have people you can be around and not feel you're being judged by who you are or what you are. You're just in a place where a bunch of people love to do yoga. And that's what I find the greatest communities are for me, that people that love to do yoga, I go and play with them. So that's what it means for me.
Having a place you can call home.
Yeah.
A community like that. That's beautiful. And Nate, what does being on your mat and the yoga community mean to you?
I'm going to have to agree with David. My mat is my sacred space. I come onto my mat and give myself the time to honor myself, to acknowledge all that I'm doing, to give myself a rest. It's a time for me to honor my body and everything it does for me, regardless of what poses it can or cannot get into on that particular day. I honor my body whether I can stay in tree or not. But it gives me the time to do that. And then in terms of community, that's actually been very, very special to me with my yoga practice because I mentioned earlier in this talk that I found yoga through Love Your Brain. I did not before that have any sense of community with other people who have experienced a brain injury. I knew maybe a couple within my community, but there was never a time where I got together with other people and we were all able to just be. And we all understood and nobody was judging. And that's been really powerful for me. That opened up. I just didn't have that chance to relate to other people in quite that way. And that was wonderful.
Mm. Thank you, Nate. Thank you for sharing that with us. One thing we all have in common in this call this evening is the fact that we all practice live free yoga. So and then as Nate said earlier, there are different types of practices in yoga. So you have multiple, right? There's so many different practices you can practice in yoga. So for some of the listeners who are, listening to this call this evening, what exactly is live free yoga? And what does live free yoga mean to you? Because so for some people who are, listening, they're like, what's live free yoga? I've never even heard of that. And I think that's extremely important. And, based off of time constraints right now, if you can just share like a quick 30 seconds, like, what does it mean to you? And what exactly is it? And I'll start off with my individuals on this call right now who are a little more seasoned, who've been in the game a little bit longer in their practice. So I'll start off with David, and then I'll go to Donnell, and then Isaiah, and then I'll move to Nate.
Wow. For me, Live Free is, I call it my cardio yoga. It's my place I go to get a butt kicking, have fun, laugh, and hear great music and be around a great community.
Wow.
And it's all that in one. It's a revolutionary approach to yoga. It's definitely different than the mainstream, but it's opening the doors to getting people stepping on the mat. And I think it's a great place for anyone to start because you can relate right off the bat with music. And then you get in there and start doing silly postures. And all of a sudden, you're laughing, you're having fun. And before you know it, you've just quieted your mind and you're in a space that just opens you up. So that's what it means to me.
That's well said. And Donnell.
Live free is absolutely everything to me. It means everything. Like it's the hill I'm dying on. Like when I go down, it's gonna be like after live free class. That's it, because it means that much to me. I introduced to her 3 years ago, and for my first class, the first class was with the owner Annie, and it just like it was everything I wanted from the music to the heat to the energy in the room to the obvious community that was there from day one. It was just everything. And once you go through that, it is a upbeat class. It's really energetic, but there's different forms. So there's a foundation class, there's a for all class, and you don't have to go straight to the to the top dog, but you can try out the other ones. But it means everything to me. Like it changed so much for me when I started. I came directly from a Bikram class, and I never done a vinyasa class at all. And then I happened to find, live free vinyasa like first. And again, to sum it up in one word, it just means everything to me.
Wow. Thank you, Donnell. And Isaiah.
So for me, live free is a mental workout, it's a spiritual workout, and it's a physical workout. It allows me to mentally heal. It allows me to spiritually heal, and it allows my body to heal.
Right.
So within, all of that, community of going up that arc and coming back down, it hits on all of those points. It's gonna really work you out mentally. It's gonna really work you out spiritually. It's gonna really work you out physically, and it's gonna allow you to heal. So you're getting a workout and you're healing at the same time. The community is amazing. And I know we're in the time of COVID, but even, you know, prior to COVID, when there could be hands-on assists and things like that, imagine we're hitting on all of those things, mind, body, and spirit, working it out, healing it, allowing to get hands-on assists to where it can transform your mind and your body to it's almost like it's amazing, So live free, just it hits on all of those points, going up and down that arc, you feel great after every one of those classes.
That's right.
Yep.
Absolutely. And Nate, what comes to your mind?
So some technical things which have been mentioned, but I'll just reiterate. Three is a vinyasa class. So there's a focus on flow. It's also a really good workout and you will sweat. I highly recommend sweat absorbent clothing. And I'm missing something here. I'm sorry. Yes, and it's a hot yoga class. So be prepared if you are going to try it out. The room is going to be heated too. You guys might have to help me with this one. I believe it's 80 degrees for most of them.
90.
90 for the power up. Yes, not if you're going to a power up class, it will be 90 degrees in there. So water and towels. So just a couple tips if you're going to go out and give that a shot. Be ready to work out, and you're gonna have a fun time.
Absolutely. So, gentlemen, yogis, what is one thing you want people to take away from this conversation and apply in their everyday life? And what changes will you make as a result of this discussion tonight? Just thinking about it, taking a few seconds right now while we're talking and you just reflecting on the conversation. Just one thing you want people to take away. And what changes will you make as a result of this discussion this evening? I'll start off with Isaiah.
I feel like the one thing I would want people to take away from this discussion is the power of yoga to heal them. Again, I keep going back to it, but it really does, mentally, spiritually, and physically. It allows you to heal,
Right.
and it's powerful. The thing that I would take away is, again, like all my other panelists here and sources of light, like yourself as well, is just to continue to try to spark people to be interested in yoga, see what it can do for them, the value of it, why it's important, and what it can do.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you, Isaiah. And David.
Step on your mat. Honestly, step on your mat. Get on a mat and experience it for what it is. That's the greatest thing you can do. As far as me, I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to go deeper with it.
That's
right. I'm inspired by just this conversation because there was a time I wouldn't be able to have this conversation with a bunch of men of color. So exciting to be able to do that. It's exciting to see others inspired by yoga. So for me, it's just, let's take it deeper. Time to crank it up again.
That's right. Thank you, David. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Nate.
If anybody gets anything from what I've said here tonight, I would love it to be just a reminder that yoga can be for anybody. You don't have to look a certain way. There's, I think, an expectation of what yoga bodies look like or what people who practice yoga look like. I can tell you I don't fit any of those stereotypes. So whether you think you look like a stereotypical yogi or not, yoga can be for you if it's something you want to incorporate into your life. And I don't think I will necessarily be changing anything, but I really want to get on my mat after this
I
conversation.
know, it's true. That is true.
We'll be doing some yoga this evening. I
I
think.
know. I agree, Nate. And Donnell.
What should people, I hope somebody takes away from it? Like, I hope that at the end of this, you said to yourself, I had to take one of these live free classes. Like, what are they talking about?
I know.
Like, I have to get in one. And believe me, you can. Yoga shop is everywhere. Damn there, you'll find a class. But I hope that's what they take away from it. As far as what I plan on change is, like recently I've learned a lot, like in the recent past, and I hope after this conversation, like it'll help me heal, to help my community heal, to help me be a better human than I have been, and and not to, don't ever estimate the value of that yoga community. Like, again, once you find it and you get it, believe me, you should definitely hold on to it, because it's powerful. It could take you a long, long way in life. So just don't forget that, and don't take it for granted.
That's right. Don't take it for granted. And David, as we come into a closing, can you end the discussion the same way we begin the discussion?
Sure, I can do that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, let's just take 3 quick breaths, and then on the last breath, we'll take a big Om. So inhale. Exhale. Inhale and hold the neck. And exhale. And on the next inhale and Om. Honor the light and love inside of you. And we all say namaste.
Namaste. I want to thank everyone for attending this discussion this evening on the Men of Color Do Yoga, because we do yoga. And diversifying the mat. Stay tuned to the Women of Color Do Yoga, Diversifying the Mat on Monday from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Yes, gentlemen, the women are going to be doing their thing too as well. And we will have a list of places where we're going to be practicing and coming together as yogis throughout New London County, Hartford County, Middlesex County, and New Haven County. So we're going to work that out where we can continue making this, because this is a movement and moving this forward. And so, gentlemen, I just want to say I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to working with you and spreading the word of yoga, this yoga practice in our communities. I love you, gentlemen. I love you so much, and I thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Just this energy, just like Isaiah said, we got to continue spreading these positive vibrations around, this positive energy. And that's why I love working with you, gentlemen. And for many of you right now, when you think of yoga, yoga happens beyond the mat. There's a quote that always says, yoga happens beyond the mat. Anything you do with attention to how you feel is doing yoga. I'm going to say that one more time for my listeners there. Yoga happens beyond the mat. Anything you do with attention to how you feel is doing yoga. Remember, the word yoga means to join and to come together, to yoke. So let's bring our communities of color together in Connecticut, in the state of Connecticut, by healing them with the practice of yoga. That's why we are here today, and that's why we want to continue this movement. And we want to thank you all for giving us your attention, and thank you for even sharing this time with us today. So I love you all. Thank you so much. And gentlemen, if you can cross your arms like this, because I know we're not together right now. I'm giving you all a hug. I love you guys. I appreciate you. And I'm looking forward to this. All right. Thank you, brothers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's do it again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.